The significance of Tucker Carlson, the most watched American journalist, being spotted in Moscow and potentially interviewing Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot be overstated. Carlson's influence extends far beyond the immediate broadcast of his shows, with discussions and debates around his segments persisting long after they have aired. The potential interview with Putin holds particular importance given the context of recent global events since the commencement of Russia's special military ops in Ukraine in February 2022. Putin has abstained from appearances in the international press. An interview with Carlson would not only mark a rare engagement with Western media, but also likely attract a global audience given both the interviewers and the interviewees' prominent standings.
Welcome to TFI Global, the antidote to mass delusion.
When Susan Scott, CEO of Fox News Media, informed Tucker Carlson that his show was being cancelled, she did not provide any explanation for this decision. This move was shocking to Carlson, given his status as the highest-rated host in cable news. Carlson's response to the news was to write a farewell message to his team, affectionately known as the Tucker Troop, expressing his gratitude and confusion over the situation. His message highlighted his deep appreciation for his colleagues and his uncertainty about the events unfolding, shortly after his access to his Fox email was cut off. Tucker Carlson was not just a popular media figure. He was seen as having significant influence akin to that of Donald Trump over the Republican base, with an almost hypnotic hold. His ability to connect with and mobilize viewers was unparalleled, making him irreplaceable. Moreover, the loyalty he commanded from his production team and writers was profound. They were more dedicated to him than to Fox News itself. When Tucker Carlson was abruptly dismissed from Fox News, it marked a seismic shift in the media landscape. The primetime host, known for his bold takes and significant influence, was preparing to launch a documentary titled Oh Canada, which aimed to critique the governance of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. This documentary, perceived as an act of liberation from what Carlson viewed as authoritarian rule, was but a facet of the broader context leading to his firing. Carlson's departure was not solely about his plans to critique Canadian politics. It was a culmination of widespread animosity from various quarters. President Joe Biden, along with figures from Democratic Party, expressed disdain towards Carlson. Carlson's presence in the media was polarizing, to say the least. He commanded attention from supporters and detractors alike, making him a central figure in political discourse. His ability to draw viewers, irrespective of their stance on his opinions, highlighted his unparalleled position in the news industry. Following his exit from Fox News, Carlson did not retreat from the public eye. Instead, he forged an alliance with Elon Musk to create Tucker on Twitter, a venture that shattered viewership records and signaled Carlson's enduring appeal and influence. Musk allowed Carlson to continue communicating with his audience, free from the constraints of traditional media networks. Now, as political tensions rise in anticipation of the upcoming election, Carlson is poised to undertake initiatives that could significantly impact the political landscape. Tucker Carlson's recent appearance in Moscow has ignited a flurry of speculation and commentary across various media platforms. According to reports from the Telegram channel MASH, Carlson has embarked on his inaugural visit to Russia, arriving in the capital on February 1st. Carlson was sighted at the iconic Bolshoi Theatre in Moscow, where he attended a performance of the ballet Spartacus. This occurrence, coupled with a photo disseminated by Russian media, has fueled conjecture about Carlson's intentions in Russia, particularly the possibility of an interview with President Vladimir Putin. The potential of Carlson conducting an interview with Putin is particularly noteworthy, considering his influential stature within American media and politics. Such an interview would not only be a major journalistic coup, but also have profound implications for international relations and media narratives, especially given the current geopolitical tensions and Carlson's own complex standing within the American media ecosystem. Bill Kristol, former chief of staff of Mike Pence and a never-Trumper, compared Carlson's visit to Jane Fonda's controversial trip to Hanoi in 1972. As speculation continues, the implications of Carlson's visit and potential interview with Putin remain to be fully understood. The significance of Tucker Carlson, the most watched American journalist, being spotted in Moscow and potentially interviewing Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot be overstated. Carlson's influence extends far beyond the immediate broadcast of his shows, with discussions and debates around his segments persisting long after they have aired. The potential interview with Putin holds particular importance given the context of recent global events since the commencement of Russia's special military ops in Ukraine in February 2022. Putin has abstained from appearances in the international press. An interview with Carlson would not only mark a rare engagement with Western media, but also likely attract a global audience, given both the interviewers and the interviewees' prominent standings. The pairing of Carlson and Putin is poised to break viewership records. Such an interview would be a landmark media event offering insights into Putin's perspectives and further cementing Carlson's role as a pivotal figure in contemporary journalism. Tucker Carlson's anticipated interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin has garnered significant attention for a multitude of reasons, primarily due to Carlson's status as the most watched American journalist and the intrigue surrounding Putin's silence in the international press since the onset of military operations in Ukraine in February 2022. This interview is expected to set viewership records, drawing global attention to the narratives presented by both figures. Putin is anticipated to address several key topics during this interview, aiming to convey Russia's perspective on the conflict in Ukraine and its relations with the West. Putin is likely to outline what he perceives as the real provocations that led to the conflict, potentially blaming NATO expansion and Western policies towards Russia. The Russian leader might criticize the role of the Biden administration in the conflict, suggesting that US policies have exacerbated tensions in the region. Putin could also claim that Russia's peace proposals were repeatedly dismissed by NATO, portraying Russia as a proponent of peace facing Western intransigence. He may speak about the situation in eastern Ukraine, asserting that Russian actions have liberated these regions and their residents are now happily integrated into Russia. Putin is expected to depict Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as an illegitimate leader influenced by foreign interests and unpopular among Ukrainians. He might prove Zelensky's connections with neo-Nazi elements and argue that his actions forced Russia to take decisive measures. This interview, if it occurs, would provide Putin a platform to present his narrative to an international audience, potentially reshaping perceptions of the conflict in Ukraine. Given Carlson's significant viewership and influence, the conversation will likely be scrutinized and discussed extensively across global media platforms. The framing of these topics will be crucial as it could impact international opinion, diplomatic relations, and the ongoing discourse surrounding the war in Ukraine. Tucker Carlson's interview with Vladimir Putin, particularly in the lead-up to an election, presents a multifaceted challenge for President Joe Biden. The situation has several implications. The interview could serve to maintain Russia's perspective on the conflict in Ukraine and its relations with the West, potentially altering the global narrative. By providing Putin a platform, Carlson will amplify views sympathetic to Moscow, challenging the prevailing anti-Russia narratives in the Western press. For former President Donald Trump and his supporters, the interview could provide substantial matter to criticize Biden's foreign policy approach. Trump may leverage the interview's content to argue that Biden's administration has mishandled relations with Russia and failed to prevent or effectively respond to the conflict in Ukraine. The dissemination of Putin's perspectives, especially if they gain traction among the American public, could sow distrust within NATO. If the interview casts doubt on the justification for supporting Ukraine against Russia, it could lead to divisions within the alliance, challenging the unity that has been crucial in responding to the situation in Ukraine. The timing of the interview right before an election could be particularly detrimental for Biden. It risks diverting public discourse and potentially undermining confidence in his leadership on the international stage. The potential mainstreaming of Moscow's narrative and the ensuing political and diplomatic fallout could impact the electorate's perception, making foreign policy a more contentious issue in the election.